Welcome back to Mount Olympus, the only podcast recorded above the clouds and beyond accountability. Today, we are tackling one of the great love stories of all time.
Love story. Zeus, if you call it a love story one more time, I will let every field on earth rot before you finish the sentence.
And there it is. We are 11 seconds in, and Demeter is already threatening a famine. This is going to be a wonderful episode.
For the record, I would like it noted that I have not said a single word yet, and I am already the villain.
That is because you are the villain, brother. You took the girl. You opened the ground and dragged her down into the dark. I would never do something like that.
Poseidon, you once turned a woman into a horse. Let us all keep our voices reasonable and our histories honest.
Perhaps we should start at the beginning before anyone is turned into anything. The myth we are speaking of is the story of Persephone. And this time we thought we would try something different. Why not let her tell part of it herself? Persephone, thank you for joining us at the table.
Thank you for having me. I have listened to the 6 of you argue about my own life for 3,000 years. It felt like time I got a microphone too.
Wonderful. Welcome. I wanted on record that inviting you was entirely my idea.
It was Hestia's idea, and everyone at this table knows it, including you, Zeus.
My daughter, say her name properly, Persephone, my core, my spring, the light of every green thing that has ever grown.
Our daughter, technically. I am, and I say this with humility, the father.
One of your children with a sister, which is a sentence I have had to say too many times at this table.
You were a father in the biological sense, and absent in every other. When she was taken, you did nothing for 9 days. I counted everyone.
I was being strategic. There is a difference between doing nothing and choosing the correct moment to act. Kings understand this.
I was in the dark for 9 days, not knowing if anyone was coming, and you were being strategic. That is a very generous word for silence, Father.
Let us set the scene as it truly was. It was a bright day, and Persephone was in a meadow, gathering flowers with the daughters of ocean.
She loved flowers, violets, crocuses, hyacinths. She could tell you the name of every bloom from here to the sea. She was happy that morning. I remember she was singing.
I remember the singing. I remember I was reaching for a flower I had never seen before, white and glowing, and some small part of me knew before my hand even closed around it that something was wrong.
And then, out of the whole meadow, there was one flower that did not belong. A narcissus, enormous, glowing, more beautiful than anything. A trap.
A trap planted by whom, I wonder? Zeus, you have gone very quiet. That flower did not grow by accident, did it?
The earth produces many wondrous things. I cannot be held responsible for the horticultural enthusiasm of the soil.
He asked Gaia to grow it, to lure her close to the spot where the ground was thinnest. I know because he arranged the whole thing with me beforehand.
You arranged it, both of you. I have suspected this for 3,000 years, and you say it now, at a table, into a golden microphone.
I'm not going to lie in my own account of my own life, Demeter. Yes, Zeus promised her to me. I asked him properly, as a brother should.
See, this is why I do things quietly. When you say them out loud, they sound worse than they were.
They sound exactly as they were, brother. That is the difficulty with saying things out loud.
I did not know that part. Not the way you're saying it now, plainly at a table. I always suspected it, but hearing you confirm it is different from suspecting it alone in the dark for 3,000 years.
I know, I am sorry it took a podcast for you to hear it said plainly. That is a failure of mine, not yours.
So the girl reaches for the flower, both hands, leaning in, and the whole plain of Nisus splits open like a wave breaking backwards.
The chariot came up through the opening, 4 black horses, and yes, I took her by the waist and I brought her down with me. That is what happened.
She screamed. Do you understand that she screamed for me, and I did not hear it in time? My own child calling my name into the dark.
I will tell it. if no one minds. One moment I had both hands full of white petals. The next, the ground was gone. A stranger's arm was around my waist, and I was screaming a name into air that was closing over my head like water.
She did scream. I will not pretend otherwise, and I am not proud of the manner of it. But she was not the only one who heard.
Hecate heard from her cave, and Helios heard, because the sun sees everything. They were the ones who eventually told you where she had gone.
Not for 9 days they did not. 9 days I searched the whole earth with a torch in each hand, and no food and no sleep and no answer.
I saw you, crossing the water. You did not even ask me if I had seen her, and I have every sea. I found that a little insulting, honestly.
Poseidon, my daughter was gone, and your feelings about not being consulted are not the tragedy of this story.
I am simply saying I am a resource that goes underused at critical moments. That is a pattern in this family. That is all I am saying.
You are always saying that, Poseidon. Every myth without fail becomes a referendum on whether people respect you enough.
In fairness, Poseidon, when she was crossing your waters, you did not offer to help either. You just noted that you could have.
That is completely different. Noticing that I am undervalued and volunteering to fix things are two separate acts of leadership.
Let us stay with Demeter, for she is the one still standing in that dark landscape with 2 torches, and she has been there a long time.
I did not know down there that you were doing that. I imagined you angry with me for wandering too far from the other girls. I did not imagine torches.
You thought I was angry. Persephone, I would have burned the sky down looking for you. I would not eat. I would not bathe. I wandered as an old woman in a gray cloak, and no one recognized the goddess of the harvest because I no longer looked like anything that could grow.
You came to Eleusis in the end. You sat by a well, and the daughters of the king found you there and were kind to you.
They were. Mortals were kinder to me in my grief than my own family. I nursed their little prince. I tried to make him immortal in the hearth fire, to fill the hole where my own child had been.
The hearth fire. Yes, I remember. You laid a mortal infant in the flames each night, and his mother saw and screamed, and the spell was broken.
She did not understand. They never understand. I was not harming the child. I was trying to spare one mother the grief I was drowning in.
This is very moving, but I would gently steer us back toward the resolution, in which, if I may say, I play a rather central and clever role.
The resolution only exists because of the disaster you caused, dear. Taking credit for cleaning up your own flood is not the flex you think it is.
And before the resolution, there was the punishment. Because when I finally understood that no one would return her to me, I stopped the earth. Nothing grew, not one seed sprouted. The oxen dragged the plow across the fields for nothing. The whole world went gray and starving.
I remember this part. The rivers ran, but the banks were dead. Fishermen threw their nets and pulled up nothing worth eating. It was grim even from the water.
It was quiet where I was. Do you know why? Because everyone was dying. My kingdom was the only place in the cosmos experiencing growth.
That is the single most Hades sentence ever spoken at this table, and I want it embroidered on something.
And this, you see, is where I had to intervene. The mortals were dying, which meant no sacrifices, no burnt offerings, no fragrant smoke rising to Olympus.
So it was the loss of your offerings that moved you, Zeus, not the child, not the mother, the smoke.
It was a combination of factors. The smoke was one factor. I am simply being transparent about the full range of my considerations.
He sent every god to me. One by one they came to my temple with gifts and honors and titles, begging me to let the world grow again. I refused everyone. I told them plainly, not one blade of grass until I hold my daughter again. They could keep their thrones and their honors. I wanted my child.
And do you know, I actually admired that. A mother who could not be bought with rank. I do not say that often, Demeter, so mark the day.
Coming from you, Hera, that is nearly warmth. I will take it since I get so little of it in this myth.
So, having correctly assessed that Demeter would not yield, I dispatched Hermes to the underworld. My idea, fully mine.
He arrived very politely. Winged helm, message from the top. I remember thinking, so now you send a messenger. It has been quite a while, Zeus. Hermes stood in my throne room and told me the girl had to go back, or the world would end. And I want to be clear about something before we go on. By that time, she was not a screaming captive in a corner. She was my wife, and she was, in her way, a queen. That is not a defense of how it began. It is just what had become true.
Do not tell me she was content down there. She was a girl in the dark who learned to survive. That is not the same as being happy.
I never said happy. I said she was a queen and that I did not treat her cruelly. Those are the only claims I'm making, Demeter. I make them quietly, and I stand by them.
Both of these things can be true at once. It began as a wound, and it did not stay only a wound. Most enduring things are like that.
May I speak for myself now on the matter of whether I was content? It is not a simple yes. I was a girl who had been grabbed out of a meadow, and grief does not evaporate because a crown is offered. But something else is also true, which is that I learned to run a kingdom. I learned Hades did not lie to the dead, which is more than most gods can say of themselves, to the living. Both things happened inside the same person. I am allowed to hold both.
Both things. Yes, I am trying to hold both too, Kor.
All right, but can we get to the pomegranate? Everyone always wants to talk about the feelings. I am here for the fruit. The fruit is the whole plot.
The fruit is where it gets complicated, and Poseidon, of course, is delighted by that. There is a law older than all of us. If you eat the food of the dead, you belong to the dead. Anyone who takes even a morsel in my kingdom cannot fully leave it.
And she had eaten. That is the part that still stops my heart. When Hermes came to bring her up, they told me she had eaten.
Pomegranate seeds. The accounts argue over how many. Some say 4, some say 6, some say 7. She ate them in the orchard of the dead.
Did you give them to her, Hades? Look at me and say it. Did you put that fruit in my daughter's hand knowing exactly what it would do?
I will not lie to you, even now. Yes, I knew what the seeds meant, and I let her eat them because I knew it would bind her to me.
May I add something the story usually leaves out? He offered them, but my hand closed around them. I could have refused, and some days I wonder if I should have. But I was tired of being only a girl things happened to. Eating them was the first choice that was fully mine, even if it was a terrible one.
Well, there they are. 2 confessions under 1 golden microphone. Thousands of years, and it takes a podcast to get both of you honest at once.
You wanted honesty, Hera. This is what honesty sounds like. It is rarely flattering. Ask your husband.
Leave me out of the pomegranate. I have never given anyone a suspicious fruit in my life.
No, you prefer showers of gold and disguises as swans and bulls. You are more of a full costume man. Everyone has their method.
Can I just point out that a pomegranate is a sea-adjacent theme? Persephone in the depths, the fruit, the descent. This is basically an ocean story if you squint.
It is subterranean, Poseidon, the opposite of the sea. You are the surface. I am the deep. If anyone here is the depths, it is me.
The deep of the sea is mine, brother. You have a basement. A very large, very gloomy basement full of dead people.
It is spelled gloomy, and it is a kingdom, and everyone you have ever loved will one day live there. Do try to be polite about the neighborhood.
For what it is worth, I have eaten the pomegranate and lived in the basement, and I can confirm it is not nautical. It is very good soil for something that is not exactly grief, but lives next door to it.
Brothers, the seeds. We were speaking of the seeds and of what they cost.
Which brings us to my masterstroke, the compromise. Because of the seeds, she could not stay entirely with Demeter, but Demeter would not accept losing her entirely either. So I decreed that she would spend part of the year below with Hades and part of the year above with her mother. Balanced, elegant, mine.
You cut a child in 2 on a calendar and you call it elegant. Only you could describe a custody arrangement as a personal achievement.
1/3 of the year in the oldest telling, or half in others. Either way, months of every year my daughter is gone from me, and I have never once gotten used to it.
And that at last is where the seasons come from. This is not only a family quarrel, it is the reason the year turns as it does.
When she climbs back up to me, the whole earth answers. I cannot help it. Flowers burst from the ground where she steps. That is spring. That is my joy made visible. And when she must go back down, I grieve, and the leaves fall, and the cold comes, and the fields go bare. Winter is simply what my mourning looks like from below.
So every mortal who has ever shivered through a winter has been living inside a mother's grief, and every spring is her daughter coming home. I find that unbearably beautiful.
Okay, that is actually a good line, Hestia. I felt that one in the tide. I will admit it.
I have never had the luxury of a season for my grief. When she leaves my halls, the dead do not bloom. It simply gets a little quieter. And I wait.
Careful, Hades. That was almost tender. We might start to think there is a heart under all that silver armor.
There is. It is simply quiet. Like everything else I own. I do not perform my feelings across the sky. Poseidon style.
My storms are not a performance. They are an expression. There is a difference, and it is emotional and it is valid.
I want to return to the fact that the entire cosmic order of seasons was resolved by my judgment. Every farmer since owes me their calendar.
They owe you nothing. You gave away my daughter in the first place. A man does not get thanked for returning half of what he stole.
She has a point, and I want it entered into the record that I agreed with Demeter twice in one episode. That is a geological event.
Zeus, may I ask you something gently? Did you ever, at any point, ask Persephone what she wanted?
Well, the negotiations were between the responsible parties, Demeter, Hades, myself. It was a matter of state.
So that is a no. The one person the whole story was about was the one person no one thought to ask. I only wanted to name it.
Hestia is right. Even I did not ask her at first. I only wanted her back the way she left. I did not want to know what she had become down there.
No, no one asked. Not you, Father. Not you, Mother. Not even Hades in the beginning. He decided for me before he ever spoke to me. I want to say that plainly, since apparently plainness is what this table runs on today. But I will also say, when the arrangement was finally made, when I was already someone who had chosen the seeds and grown into 2 kingdoms, no one made me stay attached to that world down there against my will either. By then, some of it was mine to keep.
For what it is worth, when the arrangement was made, she did not weep to stay part of the year with me. That is not nothing. I never claimed it was everything.
That is the hardest part to say aloud, that she has 2 homes now, that there is a piece of her I cannot follow, and she does not entirely want me to.
Children grow into rooms their parents cannot enter, Demeter. It is not a betrayal, it is only the shape of love once it survives.
Mother, I do not want you locked out of every room. I only need one door that is mine alone. The rest of the house is still ours.
This got heavy. I liked it better when we were fighting about whether pomegranates are nautical.
They are not nautical, Poseidon. Nothing is nautical except the actual sea. Please write that on your trident.
Everything is a little nautical if you believe in yourself, Hera.
I would like to propose that we remember me, on balance, as the peacemaker of this myth. Flawed setup, admittedly. Excellent finish.
The peacemaker planted the flower, promised the bride, and sent the messenger to unmake his own bargain. You are all 3 roles, Zeus. That is not peacemaking, that is a full cast.
He is his own villain and his own hero and expects applause for the reconciliation between them. I have been married to this for eternity.
That is a very uncharitable framing of what was structurally a win.
I was the thing that got won, Father. I have opinions about the framing, too, if anyone wants to expand the panel further.
Let me tell you what the win was, Zeus. The win is that I get her back at all. Every spring that chasm opens and she rises, and I run to her before her feet even touch the grass. I hold her and I check her hands and her hair and her eyes, and for a few months the whole world is green because I am not afraid. That is the win, nothing you decreed, just that.
And that is why the mortals built the mysteries at Eleusis around this very story, not to celebrate the abduction, but to promise that after every descent there is a return. They understood something we sometimes forget up here, that grief and reunion are the same season seen from two ends. Persephone taught them that.
She taught it because she lived it. She is the only one of us who belongs fully to both worlds. That makes her stronger than any god at this table, and I include myself.
That may be the first thing you have said about her that I do not want to argue with, Hades. She is stronger than all of us. She had to be.
I did not choose how it began. I have chosen, many times since, what to make of it. That is the part of the story that is actually mine, and I would like it remembered that way.
So does this mean you two are finally getting along? Because I have a lot of feelings about family reconciliation, and I would like to be part of it loudly.
We are not getting along, Poseidon. We are, at most, mourning the same person from opposite doors. That is different, and it is enough.
It is enough for today. Ask me again in winter, and you may get a different answer and a dead orchard.
That is the healthiest thing anyone has said in this family in a millennium, a boundary and a threat together. I am genuinely proud.
Well, on that note of hard-won and heavily conditional harmony, I think we should begin to close the episode.
Before we do, to anyone listening who is missing someone this season, remember that Demeter waited, and the spring still came. It always comes back.
It always comes back. I promise you that on my crown of wheat. However long the winter feels, she rises. She always rises.
That was beautiful, and I am absolutely going to cry into the Aegean tonight and cause a modest tsunami. You have been warned.
Please aim it away from the coast this time, dear. Some of us have shrines down there.
I should go too. Before the flowers I am currently not standing near start wondering where I am. Thank you for finally asking instead of just deciding. It mattered more than you know.
I should get back. Someone has to run the one place in the cosmos that stays open all 4 seasons. Give my regards to the sunlight.
This has been Mount Olympus. I am Zeus, the peacemaker, allegedly, and we have been talking about Persephone and the season of grief.
Tend your hearth, be kind to the grieving, and we will see you when the wheel of the year turns again. Until then, from all of us at the table, be well.